Welcome, everybody, to the Healing Place podcast. I'm your host, Teri Wellbrock, and very excited to have with me today Karen Iverson. And she is author, educator, licensed professional counselor, and so much more. So, welcome, Karen.
Thank you so much for having me, Teri.
Absolutely. I know you just had a book launch in October.
Yes, I launched my first book in the series on mental health.
Oh,
So it's
that's
called
awesome.
Winning the Mental Health Battle from Struggling to Thriving, 7 Tips to Navigate Anxiety, Depression, and Mania.
Yeah, I'm really curious to learn about. I mean, we've obviously, this is like episode 350 something. Talked about anxiety. We've talked about depression. We've talked a lot of mental health issues. But when I saw that in the book title, Mania, I haven't had people come on and really address that and talk about that. Um, and and what that is, because I think a lot of times there's just like a stereotype around it. And so can you just talk to us about what is that?
hmm Yeah, so mania really has to do with a lot of when you think of it as being on a high above what a normal quote unquote level of emotion would be. So as far as I'm concerned, there is no normal. Everybody has their highs and everybody has their lows. Somebody who suffers from mania, you can suffer from hypomania, which is lower than mania, and mania is higher than hypomania, and hypomania is higher than a traditional stable state. When somebody suffers from mania, it means that their highs go higher than what a typical emotion range would be. And that's really the main crux of what mania is.
Fascinating. Yes. And so, I mean, almost like when you're looking at the spectrum of you've got depression, and then it's almost like opposite end then of and
Mhm.
and is and I ask only because I've experienced this with some loved ones, where they'll fluctuate from one end where they're almost non-functioning and non-social to the other end. Is that normally the case, or is it, can you just have mania, like manic episodes?
Um, well, some people do have mania episodes without as severe of a depression as other people do. If you're talking about a specific type of bipolar diagnosis, then normally you do have the highs of mania and the lows of depression. But one thing about mania is that when you're being diagnosed with mania and bipolar, you don't have to have continual mania events. If you've had one manic event lasting a week or longer, that can be categorize you with a diagnosis of bipolar.
Okay. Interesting. Well, thank you for that and that clarification and understanding. I know, like, for me, I'm just a very, like, always going active person, always, 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 always. I mean, and I've always got projects, like I do a newsletter, and I do audiobook narrations, and I do a podcast, and I work 12-hour shifts 4 days a week at a job. And like, I'm just always, and so is it a lot of times, I mean, people have told me, I've heard before, that can be a trauma response, and like you keep yourself so busy you don't have time to then think about the trauma stuff, right? And can that be a
Yeah.
reaction? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there, you know, there's various aspects of mania as far as whether it's something related to something that's traumatic that has occurred. If you have a trauma in your life, that can sometimes lead to mania. You can have symptoms of PTSD that are similar to symptoms of bipolar and mania. It's not necessarily the same, but people can also have dual diagnoses. So somebody could have a PTSD diagnosis and a bipolar diagnosis at the same time.
Okay. All right. And I have CPTSD diagnosis. So, because mine was a crazy early childhood. So, all right, well, let's make a
Mhm.
left turn. I dove right into something good. And Not that it all
Yeah.
isn't good, not that at all, but that was just a curiosity that piqued my curiosity when I read that. So let's
Mhm.
introduce you to folks and let you talk about, what it is, who you are and what it is you're doing, your passions and purpose in the world.
Sure. So I have a very broad background in a whole lot of different things. Started thinking I wanted to go to medical school to be a psychiatrist, and years later, I ended up coming back and becoming a counselor, which to me is very similar. I just don't diagnose or I don't prescribe medications, which a psychiatrist does a lot of. And I also worked for a while as an actress. And that was a lot of fun and a lot of excitement in the respect that a lot of people would love to be actresses or actors in their lifetimes, but don't ever become one. And so I was actually able to live, as one for a while. I've also been a teacher. I hold two master's degrees. One is from Columbia University Teachers College in science and technology and mathematics education. And I also hold a master's degree from Northeastern State University, which is in clinical mental health counseling. And I've written three books. My first two books were about breast cancer. The first book is written in a journalistic style. So it goes through what I experienced going through breast cancer, which was also written as a way for myself to cope with what I was going through. And that book is Winning the Breast Cancer Battle. And then I wrote a second book to go alongside with it that was specifically for the person going through breast cancer while they're going through it. And that's the companion journal. And then I also felt drawn to write a book about mental health. So I published this most recent book that we've been talking a little bit about. And I just, I have a puppy dog who I'm training to be, hopefully, a therapy dog with pet assisted therapy. And I'm about to do a training with horse equine therapy. So I'm excited about that. And I, in my practice, do everything from CBT to DBT to EMDR. I just love to learn, and I'm constantly trying to learn more so I can help people, even better, than I can right now.
Oh my
So,
gosh,
and
soul
I'm also
sister. I love it.
and I'm also a very faith-filled woman as well. I believe in God, and I live my life that way. So,
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it. My undergrad is in psychology, and I was going to go on and get my PhD. I even had a license plate at one point. My ex-husband had given it to me, said PhD to be. Um, and because that was my dream, was to get a degree and be
yeah,
a child psychologist. Um,
yeah,
and then I took a child abuse course, and so I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can, because the abuse part of it, it all came flooding back. And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
ended up going for master's degree work in sociology. But yeah, I love it,
Mhm.
and have a therapy dog. She's since retired, but what a great gift that was. So kudos to you for being able to do that. I really quickly, the reason we got Sammy, who's a Labradoodle, was when I finally in 2013 decided to step back onto the healing path after decades of struggling through panic attacks and
Mhm.
anxiety. Um, I
Yeah.
ended up at EMDR therapist. Someone had recommended EMDR that I had never heard of. And so
Mhm.
she had her Labradoodle Cody in the office. And so she brought me in for what she called an interview to see if we were compatible with each other. And afterward,
Mhm.
she sent me a message and said, yes, I will take you on, as a client. And she said, but the interview wasn't with me, it was with Cody, because the instant I sat down on that couch, man, Cody was on me and just loving me. And I loved
Wow.
on this dog, and we were just like
Yeah.
instantly, and it was just like that dog knew I needed that. And so, yeah, that
Yeah.
was a beautiful moment. So I think it's so cool you're going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and horses are the same way. Horses can read a person so well. They can tell if you're being honest, they can tell if you're not being honest, just like the dogs can. Horses and dogs, they're just so sensitive. I would imagine cats probably are too, but I'm not familiar with using cats for therapy, but animals can really be a great adjunct to doing any type of therapy, really.
Yeah, I've heard that about horses. I myself have always been afraid of them because they have giant heads, and I just was never exposed to them. I grew up in an apartment. We didn't have any sort of farm life anywhere near us. Um, but when I went on a family trip to Tennessee, everybody convinced me, let's go horseback riding. And so I told the people there, I said, I've never been on one. I've never been near one. They scare me. And they were like, we're going to put you with Goober. And I was like, oh, Goober, that's just a perfect name. And Goober was this old horse whose belly drugged to the ground. And I fell in love with that horse. Like
Oh,
he
yeah.
knew, and he was so, so sweet. And so I was able to like pet his face and love on him. And yeah, so you're right.
Yeah.
I think he knew.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, look at this
Yeah.
lady.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So now do you do are you still counseling people, and do you do one-on-one, or do you do like group? I know you identify, as an educator and as well. Do you do group sessions with people?
So right now I'm just doing one-on-one sessions. But I'm thinking about if I can to create a course so that people can get help from going through a course and getting the knowledge through me, but on their own time, and just being educated that way. If they're interested in that, I'm hoping to do that this year, but I haven't started it yet. So, you
Yeah,
know,
no, it's
um,
do you know if people want to work on you one-on-one, can they do Zoom sessions, or offsite sessions, or do you just do in person?
Yeah, so I do Zoom sessions as well as in-person sessions. I also do phone sessions, depending upon where the client is located. But I like to do Zoom sessions because then you can see each other and you can see the facial expressions, and there's a little bit more level to it, when you're doing it that way.
Oh
But
yeah.
I used to do life coaching sessions, and the life coaching sessions I did were on the phone. So
Okay. Wonderful. Well, I haven't said it in a while because it hasn't come up, but folks, if you have the opportunity, particularly those with, CPTSD, PTSD, trauma history, early childhood trauma history, man, I mean, I know you do CBT and others, but EMDR, it really altered my life. It took me in a new direction because from someone who was battling almost daily panic attacks to now having none. And I'll have heightened anxiety in stressful situations, but I can get it under control. But man, EMDR, it was so empowering for me, because it was terrifying to, all my traumas were compartmentalized, and we just kind of dumped them all in the middle of the floor, right? And went through that
yeah,
process one by one by one of,
yeah,
body memories coming up. And it took 4 years and 98 sessions, which is a
wow,
lot. But every day, yeah, I sobbed on my way home, but I kept going back because I felt a little more hope and a little more relief, like,
yeah.
oh, that I let go of that. Like, I processed that. I
Yeah,
processed that. Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, therapy can be a long lasting experience, Um, Therapy can take time because we're working through, things that are inside of us that we've been holding on to for a long time. And so, EMDR or any type of therapy can, really just get down to the root of what's going on. And, as a therapist, I'm just here to listen to you and give you unbiased feedback and reflect things back to you, so that you can come to your own decisions. I'm not here to give the person advice. I'm here to let them make their own choices because it's their life. But it can take a long time to get down to the root of what's going on, and EMDR is so, so good for trauma, specifically helping people get through their trauma.
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
glad
And
it helped you.
thank you. And that's such a valid point you brought up. Thank you for talking about that, because I think many people, again, particularly trauma survivors, are therapy scared. And it's like they they don't want to do it because they don't want to open old wounds, and they think, oh, I'm fine, I push that away, but that's not the way it works. um and so I'm glad you brought up that it's not you, like, here's what you have to do kind of thing. You're not, you're just, you're that guide, you're allowing them, but it's how much we invest and we're willing to do that hard work.
Definitely, because if you go to therapy and you're not willing to be vulnerable, then it's not going to help you as much. If you're willing to open up and really be truthful and honest and authentic to yourself, with just this person who's observing and helping you think through things, then it's going to be much more beneficial than if you're just going in and lying or speaking about surface things. It's important for you as a client to be willing to be vulnerable.
Yeah, that is so true. I was working with a counselor, who I loved, I adored. She was wonderful, and we made some great progress. This was after I had moved here and was having all this stuff happen with this mold toxicity. And she had said something along the lines of my vulnerability and it almost like being an issue. And I so, like, I don't want to say I called her out, but I just was like, whoa, hold up. My vulnerability, I call that a strength, because I say that that allows me the opportunity then to really dive deep. And we had a great conversation about it. She was like, yeah, I mean, you're right. You're right. It is your strength. So yeah, again, I
Yeah.
say yay for you for saying, bringing that up and saying that. Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah. And I mean, unfortunately, there still is with some people, a bias against therapy. Some people still don't want to open their dirty laundry, if you will, or, their family doesn't want them to express what's going on behind closed doors. And so there's still this bias, against it. And, I think hopefully that will keep continuing to get less and less as people realize how much it can be beneficial to them and help them.
Yeah, yeah. I witnessed it in my own family when we had somebody that was struggling, and uh the parent had always been like, oh, that you don't need therapy, you just need to toughen up and la 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 la. And then someone else in the family outside of that immediate family died by suicide, and they realized the impact of mental health and then shifted their mindset completely about, oh, wait a minute, this isn't just about toughening up. That's not how you handle trauma or whatever it is that's happened. Um, you've got to do the work.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's very freeing. Like you were saying earlier, you maybe come home from a therapy session and you're bawling, you're crying, but well, not but that is something that will happen. Therapy can be difficult. Um, what the benefit of it is, though, is that you get to release what you're struggling with and work through what you're struggling with. So in the end, you're freer, and you're lighter and you feel more healthy and in control of your mental capacity.
Oh gosh, yes. Oh, that's a great way to put it, because it's so true. I remember reaching that like pivotal point where I was like, oh no, these tears are really good. Like, this is a sign that I did the work, right? It was like a badge almost of, all right, it was another great session.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
I love it.
yeah.
I love it. Hi, everybody. Teri Wellbrock here. Just wanted to take a minute to share some exciting news with you. I am finishing up my 10th audiobook narration for another author. And the eighth and ninth audiobooks just were published in the last few weeks. So go to Audible and put in Teri Wellbrock, narrator, or just Teri Wellbrock, and it will bring up all of the nine so far. The 10th is, like I said, I'm in the process of finishing it up. Uh, I also have been invited to write a chapter of an upcoming children's book, Brave Kids Volume 3. So more information will be coming out on that. If you haven't joined us on the Facebook page, If you're on Facebook, please do that. I'm also on Instagram. You can just go to the Healing Place podcast, just look for that. And uh, I've also yesterday was invited to write a chapter of a book on Mary Magdalene. So that is just in the process of starting. So not much in details on that yet, but I'll share that as well. I have was a speaker on two separate modules of a conference at the University of Southern California called CALM, the CALM Conference. You can check that out. The best way to keep tabs on all of these amazing resources, many of which are free, you can go to my website, teriwellbrock.com. It's Teri, just one R with an I, WELLBROCK, teriwellbrock.com, and sign up for my monthly Hope for Healing newsletter, where I put information out about the podcasts and speaking engagements, audiobooks, books, and so much more. So that's the latest and greatest happening in my world. I work a full-time job, actually. I work 4 12-hour shifts a week, and I just passed my property manager's licensing in the state of South Carolina, so I have that. And I also still continue to do life insurance and beyond so much more than that. I have my life insurance license in the state of South Carolina as well, but I can write and have access to other states as well. Since I work for a larger company, larger agency, have access to over 30 companies. Actually, someone told me recently that it might be up to 60 now. So I know the ones I really like because they have such great products, such as Mutual of Omaha. So there you go. Lots going on. Busy, busy woman. But I love it. I love, again, putting resources out into the universe for all of you to help you along your healing journey. I'm contemplating and in the process of possibly working on a forgiveness coaching business to help people along their forgiveness journey. So if that's something you're interested in, shoot me an email at info@teriwellbrock.com and we can meet via Zoom or a phone call and just have a chat as I start to look at ways that I can help people along their forgiveness journeys. I think it's so very needed for all of us who have been through trauma, whether it's childhood trauma or adult trauma, whatever it is. I know forgiveness was a very important part of my healing journey and continues to be so. All right, now back to the show. Well, let's take another turn and talk about your breast cancer journey. And I love it when people take their pain and turn it into purpose. And I know you do speaking engagements as well too. Or yes, I said as well too. As if it was not the same word.
Yes, I do. And I went through breast cancer and I started journaling because I'd been journaling my whole life. And when I was struggling with all these aspects of breast cancer right from the beginning, I immediately went to my pages and started writing. And I have a journal in my computer that I call my Dear God journal. And I just journal whatever I'm feeling and just let it out and process through things through journaling. And when I was going through breast cancer, I was actually doing some of my journaling on paper. And so I would write on a piece of folded paper and I'd fold the paper in half and then write my whole journal out. And I realized one day I was editing my journals. And I'm like, why am I editing my journals? But I would have a line here and a cross there and a circle over there and an arrow pointing the other direction and a new word written in here. And all of a sudden it hit me that I was writing my first book. And I always had wanted to be an author, but I never imagined my first book would be about breast cancer. But God had plans, and that's what the plan was. And so I continued to write it as I went through the process of breast cancer and the journey. And when I got through chemo and had reconstruction, I ended up just refocusing my life, and I got busy with life, and the journals got put down, and I didn't think about them until years later, when all of a sudden it came back up again, and I saw this advertisement for, oh, well, learn how to write your own book, and become an author. And so I'm like, I really need to take those journals and make them into a book at this time. And so I did. And one of the most amazing things, Teri, was that I went to my first official writing conference, and I was given the title of a difference maker. And they gave me an award. It was the first award that they offered ever at that conference, and that with that company. And I was labeled as a difference maker. And it was just, more than words could express how I felt. Humbled and grateful and honored at the same time, to see that somebody else was recognizing what I was doing as helping other people and being beneficial to other people. And the story goes a little bit farther, because what happened was, the week before, my pastor had been speaking in church about becoming a difference maker. And I was like, wow, I want to be a difference maker. And
Oh,
then I go to this conference, yeah, and they award me the difference maker award. And so one more step of excitement goes on, because I then went and spoke to Sean, who was the person that was my main contact at that company. And I say to him, I go, Sean, I'm like, you don't even understand. You gave me this award called the Difference Maker. And my pastor was just talking about it. And I so wanted to be a difference maker. And he goes, Karen, and I'm like, yes. And he pauses and he goes, Karen, he goes, we just changed the name of that award a week ago.
what? I have goosies. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. 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 And so the
Wow.
gravity of it was just, yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I love it. I love it. And I talk about it so often, but God is just, it's so amazing what happens when we open ourselves up to the possibilities and the signs. And that's really one of the coolest stories I've ever heard. That's amazing. And congratulations too. Um,
Thank
because
you.
um, I mean, what a beautiful, what a beautiful, I don't want to say title, but like, oh my gosh, just like a blanket to wrap around yourself, right? Is being a difference maker. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful.
But something, I think everybody can be a difference maker, honestly. It's just a matter of putting yourself out there and finding your unique gifts and talents and laying them out on the line and working through them. I mean, everybody can do whatever amount of education they want, whether it's self-education or formal education, but finding that path in life that really satisfies them and really helps them, help others or help themselves, or help them their family members. Everybody needs help and everybody can make a difference.
Oh, 100%. I grew up very Catholic. And so my mom was this huge fan of Saint Teresa. And like I think her motto was do little things with great love. And so I love that because I try to do that in my own life. But in so many times people are like, well, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what my passion is. I don't know. But you can, you're right. You can be a difference maker by just doing little things with great love, just and again, taking your pain like you've done, like I've done, and turning it into purpose. And that may be, it doesn't mean you have to start a company or write a book or start a podcast or all of that stuff, but maybe volunteering, like you're going to be doing, you have a therapy dog or you're in training with that. I volunteered with our therapy dog, and because that's being a difference maker.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And I really think that it's the little things that, the little things are so important, and oftentimes they get overlooked. But we can't function without the little things, all the little things, and they all add up to be a big thing. So, it's important to just, hold your passion in every single day, and just be the person your strengths allow you to be.
Yeah, 100%. Well, again, that is just, I'm still kind of sitting here, just got goosies on my left arm right here, just from your story. That's so cool. Um, so how are we doing on time? Oh my gosh. All right. Well, I certainly want to leave you an opportunity to leave anyone with some final thoughts or anything that you wanted to touch upon that we haven't had a chance to touch upon yet.
Sure. I mean, I just really think that people need to hold on to themselves and be authentic and find their own path, and really, just trust in themselves and trust in the Lord if you believe in that, and follow that path and just allow yourself to be you. And, rather than trying to fit into this mold of what someone else thinks you should be, or what you think you have to be, but rather just to be who you are. And, if you need help finding that out, you can always reach out to a therapist or reach out to a life coach, and get assistance in figuring out, like you said before, your purpose, you know. Yeah.
Wonderful. And I know you just said something and then it popped back out of my head, and shoot, it was so good. It was you were talking about, oh, like people who are trying to find their purpose. And I know for me, I think God steers us back around a lot of times. I call them angel whispers. It's like that little tap on the shoulder, like, hey, you're not listening. But there's signs all around us. Like I think we're constantly being guided
Yeah.
to our purpose. We're here for a reason. We're here to shine a light of hope into the world, or shine our beautiful, unique light. Um, and so, yeah, you're right. It's just a matter of paying attention and to, I guess, the signs, the angel whispers, whatever it is you want to call it, that
Yeah.
redirect us.
Yeah.
I know. Oh, one of the things I want to tell you was, um, shoot, I just dropped something. Um, when so I had gone to college right out of high school, and I was like, oh, I think I'm going to be an attorney, and oh, maybe a doctor. I had all these aspirations, and then I ended up quitting school and getting married, and then was involved. I had been involved in two horrific bank robberies with gun violence, and one of my coworkers was stabbed, and another one was shot and murdered. Same
Wow.
perpetrators, same bank, but two different branches, and I happened to be at both of them. Um, so anyway, from that, that's where I started to have the panic attacks. And my mom had been
Mhm.
through two bank robberies, working at a different bank, and she didn't have any issues. Well, she was an alcoholic, so I didn't realize at the time she was diving into the bottle to resolve it. But so I
Yeah.
said, I'm going to go back to school and get my degree in psychology. So it was like these events in my life led me down this path because I wanted to understand, like, why am I reacting this way? Why did she react this way? Like, what the impact of these events on my life? And so, yeah, it is so sometimes where you can take, like, you having breast cancer, and yeah, you wrote in the journal, but you put the journal down, but eventually, there it was in front of you again, like, oh, you can write a book about
Yeah.
this. Um,
Yeah.
so a lot of times I'm just telling folks, if you're hurting, if you're suffering, if you've been through whatever it is, so many times you can take that and be like, oh, how can I help others who are going through it now or have been through it? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, again, I applaud you and thank you for writing your book and for the work you do to guide others along their healing journey. It really is a beautiful gift from someone who's been on the other side of it, for the work you do.
Well, thank you. I just, I do what I'm led to do. And, I find what works for me and do the best I can to help myself and help others, and live through this crazy life.
Yeah, and that it is. And there's still going to be hurdles, and that's okay because, we're arming ourselves. I mean, you're arming people to, the next time life happens, um, they're empowered.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
So how do folks find your books? How do they get in touch with you? How do they work with you?
So the easiest way to find my books are to go to Amazon, and all you have to do is type in Karen Iverson, and they'll come up. They're all winning the mental health battle and winning the breast cancer battle under that nomenclature. They can go to KarenEIverson.com. So my website has E in it, Karen E Iverson, but the Amazon is just Karen Iverson. And KarenEIverson.com/mental health. And they can download some free quizzes or get some visualizations that they can use to help relax. And they can contact me through that.
Wonderful. Awesome. Well, it's just been a joy. Thank you for being here and helping me learn some things. And yeah, it's just been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Teri. I really appreciate you having me on. It's been a pleasure talking to you and just getting to know you a little bit.
Oh, thank you. I know I was like, blah, 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 blah. But I have to say, everybody, Karen's so wonderful and just such a kind and beautiful soul because she messaged me and I was like soaking in an Epsom salt tub because I was having a little psoriasis flare. And I was like, oh my gosh, as soon as I saw her name, I was like, I'm supposed to be on a podcast. So I like jumped out of the tub, came running down here and skidded in sideways. So thank you again, Karen, for your patience and kindness and understanding as I like totally drop that one. So,
Well, you know what? We all have our little bubbles, and self-care is really important. So I understand.
oh, well, thank you. Thank you again. All right. Well, everyone, thanks for joining us today on the Healing Place podcast. And remember, until next time, be gentle with yourself. Thanks. Bye-bye. Hey, everybody. Teri Wellbrock here. Just wanted to thank you again for being a part of this healing space and my hashtag Hope for Healing journey. Thank you for sharing, liking, inviting others to join, listening in. You've really helped this show blossom. It has now been downloaded in 136 countries and is in the top 2% globally out of 3.2 million shows, which is just amazing. And it's all because of you and your tuning in and inviting others and sharing and liking and loving. And your reviews on Apple really help too. My goal is to hit 100 5-star reviews by the end of the year. And I am closing in on that. So if you are listening in on Apple or Apple Podcasts, please go and rate the show and leave a review if you absolutely love it. And I would be most appreciative. Also, if you would like to receive my monthly Hope for Healing newsletter, please be sure to go to TeriWellbrock.com. It's TERI, just one R, WELLBROCK.com. And I have a gift to send you for signing up for that monthly Hope for Healing newsletter. Plus, there are many other resources listed on that page, including a resource library. All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.